Okay. It's always live before we think it's live. But yeah, the B-roll thing is it's a good idea. It's just, okay. Facebook, I love it. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm really excited that you decided to spend some time with us today. I want to hear from you. How was your week? How are things going? What's something that we're celebrating this week? And I was just telling Mary Knox that I am celebrating being recently not elected, unfortunately, but election is coming soon. There was an emergency vacancy on the school committee where I live, and they held auditions. That would have been amazing. No, it was like a job interview. You had to apply, and then they had an election, and that was on Wednesday, and they selected me. So I'm officially a school committee member. Yay. I'm so thrilled. My first school committee meeting was about 5 hours long, and it lasted until 11 p.m. So just throw you right in. They just throw you right in the ring, but I'm thrilled about that. So let me know what I'm going to look at the chat here. Let me know what you're celebrating, what's going on with you, what's happening. And if there's something you're struggling with, we want to know that too. So I'm thrilled that you decided to join us for this Facebook Friday, very special Facebook Friday. I'm Julia Campbell. I would hope that you know that. You probably either got an email from me or saw the Facebook event, or maybe you saw this on Twitter. Today, we have a very special guest, Mary Knox Miller, who actually emailed me out of the blue, and we just really connected. And I knew that she was the kind of person that I wanted to have on Facebook Live because she speaks the language of small nonprofits. She speaks the language of struggling, or not even necessarily struggling, but bootstrapping DIY organizations. And when we had a conversation, her strength is really video. So I'm going to read you her bio because it's pretty impressive. So she's an expert in visual communications, which is so essential, obviously, in this day and age, multimedia creation, project management, and digital asset management. She's an international photojournalist turned heart-centered educator, and she spends her days filming faculty and students as the assistant director of multimedia for Harvard Business School's MBA program. She's the founder of Nonprofit Video Lab, and I'm going to post her nonprofit video roadmap, and you can learn more about Nonprofit Video Lab on her website, which is an online course empowering nonprofits with the tools of video and the art of storytelling. So right in my wheelhouse, my love of video, my love of storytelling. And when it comes to building community, engaging with the community, and fundraising, Mary Knox thinks video is a must, and I do too. Let's hear how easy it is to add video to your organization's toolbox. That's what we're going to talk about. So how are you, Mary Knox?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Miss Julia. I'm so excited to be here. I apologize for a little bit of a leftover cold I've got going on, but I am just so pumped to share it with you guys.
Oh, I'm so glad you feel better.
Yeah, we're getting there.
So we were laughing because I have some construction going on in my house. If you have taken any kind of webinar with me this week, you've heard me talk about this, and you've probably heard the banging. But I think that my text to my husband managed to go through, but I don't know. It could start up at any time. So I probably jinxed it. We're getting just a big closet put in the front hall because we had no closet and nowhere to put anything. And it literally is backpacks and coats and hats and shoes, like in an actual pile every single day. So I was like, no, we gotta get a closet in there somewhere. So let's see. I don't know. I can see Julika Falconer checking in from South Africa. Awesome.
Oh, wow,
and incredible. Hi, Carol. It's so good to see you here. So yeah, keep writing in the comments. I'll be monitoring them, and I'm sure we will get more people commenting. Also, if you have questions as we go, Mary Knox is going to be doing a presentation with slides, and and I will probably mute myself just in case the banging starts again. But if you do have questions, comments, put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring it the whole way through. So I will also put the link for her nonprofit video roadmap. But first of all, I want to hear where you got that first name.
Yes.
I love it. It's really, and it's Mary hyphen Knox. And I apologize because I think I put it wrong in the caption here. So
no, it's totally fine. Actually, it legally doesn't have a hyphen. But sometimes for those who are in New England who aren't used to double names, I just put the hyphen in there to emphasize it. So yeah, I come from a Southern family that has 25 Mary somethings in our family. So Mary Jo, Mary Beth, Mary Ann, Mary Gibson, all different kinds of Mary somethings. And I'm Mary Knox. I'm named after both of my grandmothers. So
that's
a very
wonderful.
unique name. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's really sweet.
But man,
we named our daughter after my husband's grandmother.
Yeah. It's brutal keeping this double name in New England though. I'm not going to lie. Everybody's like, Mary. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. I know. Place. Everyone here is named Mary and Elizabeth and, very like traditional names like that. So
yeah.
But I'm going to let you take it away. Okay. So you're going to share your screen. It looks like all the tech is working. I am going to mute myself. And if you need me, let me know.
Wonderful. All right, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you today and talk about video because I know that it can probably seem like yet one more thing that you have to add to your toolkit and one more thing that you have to do. But just hang with me because I promise you that it's not as bad as it might seem. Let's just start with some things that I actually know about you guys. Hold on just a second. So what I know about you is that you are absolutely passionate about serving others, that you are out there, you are wanting to do it all. You're likely either a one man or one woman band doing everything, or perhaps you're with a small staff, and that you are absolutely exhausted, especially right now, when we're nearing the end of the fiscal year and you've had Giving Tuesday and you've got all the year-end asks that are out. You don't have enough time or resources, right? And I also know that you are looking to raise your organization's profile because the higher your organization's profile is, the more word gets out about what you do, which then means the more support could potentially come in and the more people that you can help, right? And we always want to get out there and try to move mountains. Yet I know that you're probably anxious about how best it is to tell your story. Because you follow Julia and you know that she's just this guru when it comes to telling your story on social media and how important that is. But it takes some time, right, to figure it out. But I also know that you probably realize the power of video, but it probably feels out of reach, right? You're not, for anybody that I've spoken with who's an executive director, they're like, well, I came in because, I was passionate about this particular cause and now I'm having to learn all these things. And now I'm actually also trying to manage the communications too. And now you're asking me to add video and I just can't do all of these things and you're crazy, right? But I promise you that video is well worth it because it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. But how do I know all of this? I know this because I am that same person. I am passionate. I want to do it all. And I come from a family who is always been about giving back. So I'm Mary Knox. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a friend. And I had to include these pictures because my kids, this was from beginning of September. I came home from walking my dog and my kiddos were there with the tripod up with the phone and recording themselves. I'm like, okay, if 6 and 9-year-olds can do this, like I can teach anybody how to do this, right? That's my husband, Matthew, up in the top right-hand corner. Let's see here. Okay, so I started my career as a photojournalist for a Boston area newspaper. I traveled the world for 5 years. I covered everything from the 2008 presidential election to photographing and video recording gorillas in their natural habitat in Congo in Africa. I photographed water shortage in India. And then on the bottom left-hand corner, that's actually me. Yes, I'm smiling because I've just survived a helicopter ride, but it was actually 2010 in Haiti when they had just been struck by a devastating earthquake. And when I went on that assignment, it's really when things shifted for me. Instead of parachuting literally into communities, I was there in less than 24 hours and documenting these things. I decided I really wanted to be part of a community that I documented, that I really wanted to invest and the people and the missions that I was working with, as opposed to just documenting and moving on. And so I transitioned into higher education. I'm somebody who's a lifelong learner. I love to learn, and I just love being in an environment where everybody is just seeking knowledge. And so for the past 6 years, I've been at Harvard Business School. I've done everything from photographing what campus life is like in the classroom to traveling with them. Those are some students that were in Japan, and I've also been to Israel and Brazil with them. And then I'm also on campus filming, as well as working with production companies for larger scale productions where we've got faculty coming into the studio. But I included the top right corner picture of Zoom because this is kind of where things are headed, right? At least for right now, while we're in a pandemic, everything is online. And my ability to go to campus now and film students is very much hindered. It still happens, but not as often. And so we're having to get really creative about how to create powerful stories and powerful videos when all you've got is Zoom and some stock imagery. But it's really exciting to see what's happening and the traction that we're getting. And now I've created a new mission. So as Julia was saying, I've started this side business because I am so passionate about helping nonprofits and empowering you with knowledge so that you can then go and get your story out, communicate out your energy and your passion, because I'm only one person. And if I could, I would like clone myself into 1,000 different Mary Knoxes so that we could all film all of your different organizations, and it's just not possible. And so I've gotten really excited in the past year, realizing that there's true power in teaching people online and forming a community through the nonprofit Video Lab. And in addition to doing that, I'm also doing pro bono work a lot here in my hometown of Sudbury, Massachusetts, as well as my other hometown of Nashville, Tennessee. So I absolutely love it. So the Giselle Lauren Foundation is an organization that I worked with this summer, helping people with various physical disabilities. So it's all incredibly exciting. And while I've done everything from photo to video to storytelling, all different types of mediums, video really is where I'm honing in on. And why? Because it's incredibly powerful. So 57% of people who watch a video for a nonprofit go on to make a donation. 57%. That's absolutely astounding to me. So that means that every time that there's not a video with your content, you're potentially losing more than half of your viewers' ability to donate. Why is it that video is so powerful? It's powerful because video is always rooted in storytelling. Storytelling is the foundation of any strong piece of content, but especially when it comes to video. Stories are 22 more times more memorable than just facts. That's amazing. So that means that anytime you tell me a story, whether that's through, an email newsletter, or if it's through a social post, or if it's on your website, sure, you can tell me, the amount of money that you just raised for Giving Tuesday. You can tell me how many more meals you're going to be able to purchase. But instead, if you tell me one person's story and let me follow you along on that person's journey, it's much more likely to resonate. Why is that? Because we all want this end result, right? We all want this action. We want supporters to donate. We want supporters to be part of our community. We want this action to happen so that then we can create this ripple effect where we can help more people. But all of that is founded back into story. It's the foundation of everything. A story is what creates an emotional connection. If you're telling me a story of somebody that you've been helping, or even how your experience has, transformed your personal perspective, then all of a sudden you're telling this story that something is going to then resonate with me, right? And then all of a sudden I'm remembering something that then happened, how I was transformed by an experience. And then that's going to lead to empathy. I'm going to be able to feel what you have felt. I'm going to be able to think what you are thinking. And once I'm able to do that, then I trust you. Then I say, okay, yes, I'm going to donate, or I'm going to become part of your community because I trust that you are who you say you are. I trust that you're going to help who you say you're going to help. And that all starts with storytelling. That is the foundation of absolutely everything. Julia, if there's any questions that are popping up, let me know, because I'm not monitoring the chat, but otherwise I'm just going to keep going.
No, just a lot of people saying where they're from. So we've got people from Sarasota, Chile, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I think South Africa wins the furthest distance prize. Rochester, New York, 025 Trust. That is the organization in South Africa. So no questions Wonderful. So far, but
okay.
We'll let you know.
All right, good. So we know now that story is incredibly powerful. We know that video is an incredibly powerful medium in which you can communicate. But let's first bust some myths when it comes to video, because 9 times out of 10, when I tell somebody, oh, you could make a video about that, or, oh, you can just, go live on Facebook like we're doing now, or IGTV, they're like, no, I have to be this professional. I have to, have all this slick gear and this camera equipment and all that kind of stuff. And I'm here to tell you that absolutely not. You do not have to have an expensive endeavor. You don't have to do something that's going to make you spend weeks or months, in the post-production mode. And it doesn't have to be difficult to make. In fact, you really, when it comes to video, you want to go easy. You want to make it manageable, because you want it to be sustainable. Because video, it used to be that with nonprofits, and tell me if this is true for you guys, that you would go out and you would create this big sweeping video to use with your fundraising event, right? That would happen in person, or maybe it's now online. And it's this thing that you would do once, maybe every 2, 3, 4 years. And you would spend, a few $1,000s on it. The video that I'm kind of talking about, the powerful video that I'm talking about, is more of an everyday type of a video, right? Where you're going to reset the expectations and think, okay, how can I communicate in a really powerful way with my audience? Because what people want right now is for everybody to pull back the curtain, right? That's not the second one here when it's saying being on camera is only for those with experience. It's definitely not. So, I think that there's been a lot of really difficult things that have happened because of COVID, and being in this pandemic is not something that anybody would wish upon anybody, right? But one of the amazing things about this pandemic is, I think, COVID's gift to video. And when I say that, I mean that I think it's democratized video for everybody. No longer are we, thinking that in order for a video to be good, it has to be produced in this slick, studio with thousands of dollars and a big budget and all that stuff. Powerful video can be a Zoom conversation. Powerful video can be you walking down the street or saying, okay, hey guys, we're unloading our truck now. This is all, what you helped us do with Giving Tuesday. And here we are. And this is the fruits of, our labor. It really is amazing. I think that what our new normal is now with video. And I hope that, and I'm going to show a couple of examples in just a minute, but I hope that gives you license to be like, okay, wow. So, the norm now is the everyday type of video, which is just so incredibly exciting. And also along the same lines, when you think about, normalizing video, the other thing that people, I feel like, really want right now is to feel like they're part of a community, right? We're all incredibly isolated in our own environments. We're siloed, working in our own homes or communities or whatever it might be. And there is so much happening online, and that can be a positive and a negative, but people really do want to feel like they're connected to something greater than themselves. Nonprofits right now have this amazing opportunity to not only continue doing the most empowering work that you can and that you always have done, but also bringing along all of these new folks who really want to help out, who really have kind of had this, for lack of a better term, like this life-altering perspective shift that's happening right now in personal growth that I know that I've been experiencing as well. And so when it comes to video, it just goes to show you that it doesn't have to be this slick, camera crew and lighting, that it can just be you holding your camera up there. This last point is something that might seem a little bit off or counterintuitive, but, for video, I think, and storytelling in general, a lot of times, and for a long time now, nonprofits have been making the donor the hero. And while I completely understand why that could be the case, because their financial contributions are in fact helping you get farther and faster, I think it's really important to be considering the clients that you're serving, right? The communities that you're helping, the people who are on the front lines, right, that you are helping. So this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think it's just important. Anytime I have an opportunity to speak with nonprofits, I think it's important to consider that, the key to storytelling is emotion, right? Which means likely vulnerability, which means, talking about this personal journey that you've been on. And for those who are willing to share their story, people that you have been helping or causes that you are contributing to, it's really important that when you ask somebody to tell their story, that they're doing it in a way that empowers them, right? That doesn't label them as victim, that doesn't, re-traumatize them or whatever it might be. It's just really important because at the end of the day, without interaction with your organization, their lives would have kept going, right? They would have kept moving forward. But because they interacted with your organization, they then were able to pivot and then become stronger and more empowered with your help. I hope that makes sense. And if not, or if you have any other questions about it, definitely put it in the comments. But it's just to say that as you're thinking about video storytelling, especially if you're going to talk about, you're going to interview people whom you're helping, just keep in mind that that's really important to make sure that they have a say in what it is that you're filming and what the final product looks like so that they feel like they are in fact being empowered. Okay.
So actually the banging is starting again, but it's okay. I absolutely love that point. We have a few questions that have come in, but I know I think you're going to answer them through your presentation. So I have them, I see them, and I believe, because I've seen your slides, you're going to answer them.
Okay.
I absolutely love that point. So I do an entire webinar on creating a donor thank you video. And I know that we need to use donor-centric language if we're doing like a donor thank you video. But like you said, if we're telling a story about our organization and the kinds of impact that we're making, we don't always have to make the donor the hero. Like it's not always about the donor. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. So I think I love that point.
Yeah. And
people get so wrapped up in that.
Yeah. And one little, and it's hard to think because it's like, okay, so how do I tell the story? And it's just a lot of conversation, but, there was a friend of mine who I spoke with recently who actually went through my program, and she was talking about how she and her mom were asked to be speakers. This was a year and a half ago when people were still doing in-person events. Her family had been the recipient of great care and donations for her father, who had been sick and passed away ultimately. And then because of the positive experience they had, they then turned around and became a donor. And so they were chosen to be featured in this event. And she told me that it actually, people were talking to her up until that point, didn't realize who she and her mom were. And then all of a sudden she went up and gave this speech. And then when she came and sat back down at the table for the rest of the evening, people treated her differently. And it just goes to show you that the powerful stories are definitely in the people who are the beneficiaries of the care that you're giving and the resources that you're giving. But in order to tell their story in a way that empowers them and it helps them feel good about themselves and not, shameful of the journey that they've been on, it takes a lot of nuance and care. So it's well worth the extra time and investment. Okay. I'm going to move on. I'm going to keep going. Okay. So 3 ways to go, to use video today. One is to go live. Yay. We're doing it right now, Miss Julia. We're making it happen on Facebook. It's IGTV. It's Zoom. Don't ever underestimate the power of a webinar. You might think that, and to be honest, I'm starting to get zoomed out. And so I'm diving deep right now into podcasts but other mediums as well. But don't ever underestimate the ability to go live and educate your audience, which is what Julia is doing right now. As an organization, you have expertise in whatever the mission and cause is that you have then created this organization around. And not only that, you are incredibly passionate about your cause. And so if you want to help me as a supporter understand what it is that you do in order for me to donate, then educate me, right? Like give me the opportunity to learn. And so that could be your typical presentation like I'm doing right now, or it could even be news and noteworthy, right? Something happens in the news and then you go live on IGTV and you say, oh, this ruling came out today with the Supreme Court or whatever it might be. And this is what it means for the people that we serve in our organizations. From the front lines, I love, this is just like literally, here is a day in the life of me at my computer. This is my new office right at home. Or, I took my hour lunch break today to go and play with my kids because I needed to get outside, right? Or the snow is coming in our case in Boston tomorrow. I want to get out there and enjoy the sunshine. And again, all of these things are, short and sweet, 20 seconds to 2 minutes. And it's just lowering the bar, right? It's just lowering the barrier. It's pulling back the curtain and showing people what you can do. And so here are just a couple of examples, right? On the left-hand side, promotion, obviously before, is really important. We've got Jane Goodall. She's obviously a very well-known person for Roots and Shoots, but even down below there with Amira, that's a Canva stock photo that they use, right, to promote the event in a fun way. On the right-hand side, actually go live, right? Again, Amira, this is an example that Julia had pulled out for me, which is fantastic because it's just two people sitting in their living rooms on their couch. But what they're talking about is, what it's been like for the past year and what's coming up for next year, right? It's engaging, it's keeping the conversation going. And then behind there, One Family, that's the organization that my husband works for actually here in Massachusetts. And this was a Zoom picture that they took after the fact, but it was the staff speaking with experts in the field related to their issues. And then they're out there providing more connections with people if they want to go out and learn more information, because it's also saying to the community, we are a nonprofit that serves these populations, and we are also keeping ourselves educated and apprised of what's going on out there. Okay. Second, thank you with donors. So Julia brought this up earlier. So I know right now, because I've seen it on Facebook and I'm seeing it everywhere, people literally pictures of like this massive stack of cards, right? That's the holiday cards, or it's a thank you for your Giving Tuesday, or whatever it might be, right? It's this massive tower on someone's desk. And they're like, oh my gosh, am I really going to have to handwrite all this? One idea is, instead of doing, a thank you card, which I know though, handwritten letters, they can be really powerful to people who receive them, but how about going on a video message instead, right? Create a template that is, the 3 sentences that you want to say to all donors, and then you customize the beginning and the end unique to that person, right? So you record yourself however many times donations you have, and instead of handwriting for 4 or 5 minutes, you're getting this done in about 30 seconds. And I'm going to show you a tool in just a second that can help you with that. You can use Zoom if you don't have a smartphone with a camera. Video Ask is a software I'm about to show you. Soapbox and Loom, there's tons of software platforms out there. And thank you is a really powerful way to just say, thank you, Sam. Imagine, you got probably a bunch of emails saying, thank you for your contributions for Giving Tuesday. Well, what if one of those emails you opened up and it was actually thank you, Julia, for your contribution. We're so grateful, right? It would personalize it, right? It makes it more effective. And then suddenly it's whoa, she knows my name. How does that happen, right? But it also is an ability to start a conversation. So this next slide is showing Video Ask. This is a platform that I'm actually starting to implement myself, where you can either record yourself and then lead somebody to take action, or you can record yourself and then actually ask them to relay in a video response, right? And so suddenly then it's this two-way conversation where it's thank you, Dave or Martin in this case, thank you for your contribution. If you could, and maybe ask them a question, right? If you could, see your contributions go in these 3 ways, which would you prefer? Or, if you're passionate about this particular topic, what is it that you're passionate about? Or why did this captivate you? Then all of a sudden you're doing research into your audience and you're suddenly getting a lot more information as opposed to just a one-way stream of communication with the thank you letter. Okay, last one. Option 3 is your produced content. So when you think about video, this is probably what you've thought up until this point, right? This produced piece that's, 40 seconds to 5 minutes. It's really well produced. You've likely brought in a camera crew beforehand, but now I'm going to tell you that you can do this yourself, right? The big secret is that you don't need to spend hundreds of, thousands of hours and time and dollars to create this stuff. You can actually do it yourself. And I'm telling you that because I am now helping people learn how to take Zoom footage and then pair that with stock photography and video, as well as stock music. And then all of a sudden it's this beautiful sweeping piece that's really powerful. And I'm not out there with a camera at all. So lots of different platforms here that you can use, from Adobe Spark, Animoto, Canva, iMovie. Feel free to put in the chat if there's other platforms that you've used. I know a lot of folks use Magisto. And this type of content can be anything from, an about us video. So, our organization, what it is that we do, and, how we help make a difference. It could be client interviews. So these are particular people that you have helped out in the field and how their life has changed. And staff profiles. Don't underestimate staff profiles. And I say that because for two reasons. One, not only are you going to continue to pull back the curtain on your organization and people are going to be able to get to know the people behind this brand name, but also it really helps when it comes to staff retention and volunteer retention. Because if you can show who you guys are, what your personalities are like, even if it's not, sitting here and asking you for an application, it really goes a long way. And Julia, I think you had a couple of examples that you were going to put in the chat in terms of URLs for organizations doing various types of work right now with video.
Yes.
Okay. But
yes, Amira is one of my favorites. The Night Ministry, I will put in the chat. And are you going to talk about News Story and Feed the Children?
Yeah. So okay. She'll put those in there.
The chat.
Okay. Awesome. So these are a couple different examples first, but yeah. So, News Story is something that Julie's going to put in the chat now, which I've been really impressed with them on Facebook recently, because not only are they using video in terms of motion graphics and, bright, colorful letters that they then repurpose on social, but they're also using video for recruiting of staff, and they're using it to tell their story. It's a really powerful organization's way of communicating out. These are a couple of other examples. So Robinhood, doing a video about a person who they've helped with a home post Sandy hurricane. First Descents is an incredible organization that is helping people who are young people who are dealing with cancer get out there and enjoy life. And Family Promise here in the Metro West area. It can be as simple as this gentleman who's talking about how Tuesday was a good day because he was able to get access to new housing. And it's just him sitting there in the kitchen, right? With that closed captioning happening. So it can be as big as a powerful sweeping thing and produced with a camera crew, or it could be as simple as I'm sitting here and holding up my camera phone and recording this person, because it all comes back to that emotion. It all comes back to the story that it is that you're trying to tell, to be able to communicate out. And I know closed captioning should always be, top of mind for everybody. Why? Because especially on social media platforms, 85% of people who watch videos do so without sound. And so if you're not closed captioned, if the text is not popping up as somebody is talking, it's more likely than not that people will not receive that message. And so two different platforms here that can help you with that is Typito, as well as Big View. I've actually used Big View a lot lately, because not only will it help you with those closed captions after the fact with the blue and the yellow highlights, but it also is a teleprompter. So especially if you've got an executive director or somebody who's trying to give a message and you can script it ahead of time, then it actually will pop up on your screen as you're going. Okay.
Sorry, that's amazing. I've never heard of that, and that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So it functions as a teleprompter as well.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So essentially you put in your script and it'll come back, onto the screen just like it does in that picture, right? It's overlaid with your with your visual. And then it takes that script and it literally translates it into closed captioning, like automatically. It does it all for you.
Wow.
It's awesome. Wonderful. All right. So I hope that not only have I shown you that, yes, video can be this big, powerful, sweeping productions, but it can also be just as powerful to be real. That the whole goal of this is to just start, right? People don't want polished, people want real, especially right now. You have this amazing opportunity in this time that we're living in right now, that people just, all they want is connection, right? And if they can connect, and if you can keep them apprised of what it is that you're doing, if you can take them along the journey of your organization, if you can tell them a story and show them how you've transformed lives, even if it's just, you're going live from your couch in your living room, I guarantee you it makes such a big difference. And to help you get started, I want to give you a roadmap. So this is an 11-page document that literally is all the questions that you can ask yourself before you press record, because 9 times out of 10, when I work with organizations, they're like, well, we just had this idea for a video and we just went for it. And while that's amazing, and I'm never going to curb enthusiasm, I also get a lot of, oh my gosh, that was such a big headache. And now I'm not going to touch it again because it was so cumbersome, or I had to go through 10 different levels of approvals and, the boss changed her mind at the last minute, or whatever it might be. These are steps that I literally implement every single day at my job, as well as working with organizations, that just lays everything out. You need that 40,000 foot perspective, right? You need to be able to see the forest to the trees, and then be able to start, one step at a time in order to get to that success at the end, right? And success at the end, is going to vary depending on who you are and who your audience is, right? So success for video for one organization might be just the sheer number of views, right? We want to raise our public profile. And so we want to make sure that this video hits at least, 1,000 views on YouTube. Success for another organization for a different video might be, I want to make sure that our call to action is very clear, that we need donations. And so it might be dollars that are in their pocket at the end of the day. You have to make sure you understand what your goal is from the very beginning. And you need to make sure that all the cooks in the kitchen, everybody who has veto power of that video, understands what it is that they need to do and what everybody agrees on, so that throughout the whole process, you can keep coming back to that original goal. All right, Miss Julia, I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
It's so loud and so loud. We're calling this Just Get Through It Friday. So there are questions. I honestly might have to put them in the chat for you, because you might not even be able to hear me. So I'm just going to mute myself when you answer it. But Melissa said, do you have any suggestions and tips for creating a PSA? I work for a volunteer center, and we're looking to partner with a neighboring volunteer center to promote volunteerism within our communities.
Really good question. So with this, it sounds like the goal at the end of the day is not money. It's not views. It's literally people signing up an application to become a volunteer. And if that's correct, then I would definitely say your story is the volunteer story, right? It's somebody who has either currently volunteering or has volunteered in the past, who can tell a story about how that volunteer experience transformed them, and how interacting with the population that you serve or the cause that you serve, how that literally transformed them inside. Because that's what I think volunteers are looking for, is a transformational experience. They want to know that the time or the resources that they give is actually going to make a difference. So show me somebody who has had that experience. Even better if you're trying to coordinate between 2 different organizations, if there's somebody who represents that, or if there's 2 people that you can kind of volley off of each other or tell 2 totally different stories. I hope that helps. But yes, think about, what is the end result that you want, and then work backwards from there to figure out who can personify that goal for you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Carol says she needs some apps. So Carol, I think you got some apps and I gave you some, but if you're looking for more, because she said she can't wrap her head around iMovie, which I think is pretty common. Yep. I can't wrap my head around any of those. I need a good mobile app like a Typedo or an Animoto. A Magisto.
And that roadmap will have lots of other recommendations in there as well. There's several pages of resources at the end.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So Renee Ingram says that she's the founder of African American Heritage Preservation Foundation in Washington. They created a free mobile app with African Americans throughout the U.S. and territories, and they need to promote it through storytelling. So it's a mobile app.
Okay. So it's a mobile app, but what has been captured on the app? Is it stories of folks?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I think she would have to elaborate.
Okay.
But I think it might be a storytelling app.
Okay.
Maybe.
So I would bring whatever the content is that the app has captured, I would bring that front and center in your video, right? So If the app is what you're trying to promote people to use and to download and to interact with, show people what's on that app. Think of it as kind of like a screen tutorial for software, right? You can watch any number of marketing videos for software tutorials, and it's really slick and it's nice, and it's kind of showing you exactly how the interaction looks. So it could be as simple as, screen recording your interaction with the app without a person being shown, like you literally just are showing the interface of it. But even better if you can pop out some stories, some one-liners of quotes of people who are being featured in there, or people who want, like, why did people want to engage with the app and create the content there? Why did they want to share their stories there? What is it about this particular platform to them that gives them a voice that they wouldn't have otherwise? And connect.
To me, yes, exactly. The connection. To me, if you're promoting a mobile app, you need to give me a very good reason to download it, because all I do all day is go through my apps and delete them because my phone storage is terrible. They use data. I'm big on culling my mobile apps. So for me, I have to use it. Like, it has to have some kind of benefit to me. So if you can tell a story and do a marketing campaign around, what are the benefits? And this is why a lot of nonprofit apps have failed, because they don't think about the user. They think about what's the benefit to the organization. You need to think about what is the benefit to the end user. And at the end of the day, if they're not going to open it up once a day,
Right.
Some of my apps, I'm thinking if I don't open them up once a week, they're gone. Like, they're gone. So I think that conveying the benefit of the app to the user is imperative.
Yep.
Okay. Madeline says, do you recommend adding a link for donations to the caption of a video, or would you add a text to give number at the end of the video? I guess it depends where you want to share it.
Well, it depends on the video, actually.
That's true.
I am a big proponent of only having one CTA or call to action per piece of content.
Hallelujah.
Only one.
Because that's all we can handle right now.
Otherwise, it's confusing your viewer, right? So if you are out there and your call to action and your goal with this video is to get dollars in an account, then yes, you make it big and you make it loud. At the end of the video, you give them a bit.ly link, or you get whatever the link is that they need to go on to, make it big on as a last visual of your video. Then yes, also include it within your captions and make it be a hyperlink, make it foolproof, as easy as possible. But if that's not your end goal, if it's not to get money, if it's just to raise your profile, or if it's just to educate, or if it's just to talk about what your organization is working on this week, do not put a donate button on the end of it. If you're
not asking for donations, don't put a donate button.
Right.
I would also add, when we were doing in-person events and when we can go back to in-person events, I think the text to give number is so much more effective, because if I'm at an event, I'm standing around, I'm at the table, I'm much more likely to just open up a text window and text to email sign up. That could be a good one too.
Yes.
I found that when I was doing public speaking and speaking at conferences, I tested it. I would have a slide with the link for like a sign up to get my free workbook. And then I would have a slide to the text to sign up. The text to sign up is 20 times more effective.
Absolutely.
But that was for in-person. Virtually, you can just click on, like, if you're in a webinar or a virtual event, you can just click on the link. But I think it totally depends on the context. That's just my experience.
So Julia, that goes back to your end user experience, right? So you have to think through not only, okay, as a nonprofit, what's going to be most helpful for me to get these donations in, or to get these emails, or whatever it might be. It's what do you want that experience to look like for those people who are sitting there in the audience, or for people who are right now on this webinar, right? We're responding by chat. Is this the most efficient way to do it? Should we have a poll? There's other things that we can do to engage with folks to make it interactive. So always think about the end user. Julia's really smart, don't you think?
No. I mean, I am. Yes. Okay. Jerry, it's, what did Leslie Knope say when she created her wall? I have my wall of women, and she put herself on the wall of women, and she said, I'm confident enough to be on there. So Jerry Joe says, I'm learning so much. Thank you, Mary Knox and Julia. And Hank says, for me, the critical link in all of this is the editing, trimming the unnecessary distracting verbiage or visuals. That's where I spend most of my time. Any thoughts on that is greatly appreciated.
Oh, you're speaking my language.
I don't edit anything. Honestly, I'm the worst with editing. Most of the time I'm like, oh, that's probably fine. But okay, yeah, so, I mean, for perfectionists, I think.
Yeah, this is where the magic happens. It's the magic of video is all in the planning, like in the pre-planning, which is why I gave you that document with all these questions to ask yourself. So everybody's on the same page. And then the second half of the magic is in the editing. And you think that it's all about the actual filming. And that actually is like maybe 10% of this whole entire process. It's all what comes before and after. So for editing, I feel you. So I'm averaging right now, like on a piece that is going to be high profile and that's something that's going to be shared a lot. I'm doing about 8 hours for every 20 seconds of that final video. It's a lot of time, right? It's a lot of time to finesse, and you're not doing anything wrong by spending a lot of time, right? That's where you want to make sure, especially when you think about your hook and your hold, like how are you going to start the video to make sure that it captivates somebody's attention? You've only got about 3 to 5 seconds, if you're lucky, to capture that person's attention, right? And then how are you going to tell that story?
He was talking about what to trim and what to keep.
Yeah. So usually just in terms of narrative, what I usually do is I, instead of saying with a story beginning, middle, and an end, I usually start with the explosion. I start with, what is it that's the main event that happened that takes me straight into the action. Then I back up to the beginning, and then I end with like the new reality. That might be a little bit more than you're thinking of right now, or that you're wanting. But in terms of hooking that person, that explosion is what's really important. Stories That Stick is an excellent book talking about this narrative structure. But yes, editing, it takes a while, but you get to the point though, if you do it enough, which is why I think, a lot of people, when it comes to video, they're like, okay, yes, I'm just going to create this big thing for this fundraiser. And then we're going to do it maybe once every 3 or 4 years. Video is something, it's like riding a bike, right? It's like, once you start doing it, it's really hard in the beginning, but if you keep going at it and you keep practicing and you keep trying little by slow, it gets to this point where it then becomes second nature, where it's like, you look at a video and you're like, well, I don't need that whole minute right there in the middle. I'm going to just, cut that out entirely. But you should have, 10 times more content than you actually produce in your final video, right? Like you have to go out there and capture that much time. 60% of my time on any given video project is spent towards capturing B-roll, which is like all the illustrative footage. It's all the footage that you see besides the talking head or the stock imagery or whatever it might be. It's a lot, but that's what makes it good, right? Like that's what helps you show that story, not just tell it.
I would have a tip for you, Hank. Think about where you're showing this video. So if you're showing this video at your 50th anniversary gala, whether it's virtual or in person, yeah, you could probably do 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or if it's on YouTube, could definitely do longer. If you're putting it on Instagram, it has to be a minute, and that's even too long. If you're putting it on Facebook, I think the sweet spot's like 30 seconds, 1 minute. So I think you can have multiple iterations of a video, and you can have a longer one depending on where you're sharing it. And then you can have shorter ones, for social media. All right. So we have a lot of questions. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's see. Virginie, I hope I'm pronouncing that, and the banging. I'd love to hear some ideas for what to share, how to reuse videos for our organization. So can we reuse some of these videos at other times during the year? What else? So talk a little bit about reuse.
Oh, I love it. I love it. This is one of my favorite topics because, so I'm somebody who I consider myself very creative, and I go out there and I will tell stories. But at the heart of this, I am a very organized person who I got my metadata down. I've got my file naming conventions and all that because of this reason. It is so important if you're organized and you can keep all of the content structured, then you can repurpose content. Absolutely. When you go out there and you film and you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into creating this video content, absolutely. You should be able to repurpose all of that. Say you have, a 1 minute video that's an about us video that you go out there and create. Well, you have multiple pull quotes there that you can use for social media. You have clips that you can just go down to 15 seconds and then repurpose. You can then take the outtakes from an interview that you didn't use and then go and use those to create a separate video. Absolutely. You want to repurpose content as much as you possibly can. And because of algorithms and social media and because of attention spans, it might feel like you're repurposing and you're sharing the same thing over and over again, but I promise you not everybody is seeing it. So yes, absolutely. You may reuse content over and over. Julia, you just mentioned something about, creating different iterations per platform. And the only, yes, absolutely. And you want to make sure that you understand. And again, in that roadmap, it says, how long each of these videos should be per platform and the size and all those kinds of things. But you want to make sure that when you repurpose content, that you're not just cutting and then plopping down. That's a good way to start. And if you're just getting going, absolutely. But just be aware of how people engage on each of the platforms, right? Facebook and Instagram, much more conversational, right? And that's kind of like the day in the life of or from the front lines or, a thank you or whatever it might be. But if you're talking about LinkedIn or if you're talking about, different YouTube or whatever it might be, just be aware that, the language that you use, whether that's the title, the description, or even the tone of the video, just be aware that you want to reach people where they are, right? So you want somebody to engage with content in a platform in a way that they expect the content to be. Because if it's too out of left field, they'll be like, well, they don't know what they're doing. What are they talking about? So yes, I hope that helps. But yes, repurpose over and over and over again.
And you're speaking my language because anyone that has heard me talk, I stress that exact point. You have to know your channel. It's not just kind of spraying it all out, automating it, uploading it, and just kind of hoping it works. You have to know the culture, the etiquette, the language, the best practices of each channel. So yes. Okay. And Virginie, I answered this question in the chat, but I want to just call out what I do. She says, would you recommend adding your Facebook Lives to YouTube to get more visibility? What I do is I add all my Facebook Lives. I download the file, I add them to YouTube, but then I create a special caption. I put the tags, I put the hashtags, I do whatever I need to do for YouTube. And then I also embed it into a blog. So I have a whole process that I do. I've been doing this for a while because you do want to get the visibility for the content that you create. So, but I wouldn't put it on IGTV. I wouldn't put it on LinkedIn or Twitter. It just wouldn't work. But for me personally, I have a playlist. It's called, my Facebook Live video. So people know that it was a Facebook Live, but that's kind of what I do. But the whole point, it just comes back to the point of know your audience and how they're using the platforms. Okay. All right. So Xenia says, what do you think about singling out the biggest donors by name of videos shared in social media in the video? Can it hurt and make people feel bad, the donors who contribute smaller amounts? I mean, I have an opinion on that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I have seen really successful donor thank you videos that just call out the first name. And if you have their name, I would say make a video, call them all out. I would not say Julia Campbell gave $50. I would say, thank you, Julia. Thank you, Mary Knox. Thank you. And then, this is where you might get into a little bit of trouble, but in my experience with working with videos that have done this, not a single donor has even noticed or gotten angry. It's sort of like that annual report you send where you put all the donors' names in. Sure, if you spell the donor's name wrong, they're going to get mad. But if you don't, no one even reads it or cares. So I think putting names in videos is fantastic, especially if you're personalizing them through like a cause vid or a video ask. But I don't know. There might be other ways. Maybe you could do a big Post-it note wall and put them all there and then kind of skim over it. But I think calling out names is fine.
Yeah, I think it's, I'm somebody who will go over everything with a fine tooth comb and make sure, especially when anybody's name is being used, to make sure that they've agreed to it. So yes. In terms of style and use of it, absolutely. But I would just make sure that those folks are okay with that call out. And if they're not, ask them why. That's a great conversation starter, right? And a great way to figure out, what it is about being a high ticket donor, that why did they, contribute this much, but not want to be known about it? So use it as an opportunity for, a conversation, but I would just get their permission first.
Yes. All right. We have 2 more questions and we have a hard stop at 1. Carol says, and this is a great one, Facebook Live scares me because I've seen horrible ones that are embarrassing and cringy. Oh man, me too. Any tips on doing it successfully?
Practice and more practice, and create an account that has nothing to do with your organization, and get your sisters and your friends and everybody else to hop on there. Or if you're a part of a Facebook group and you just want to practice this, and maybe it's even something that you start yourself and you say, we just want to get comfortable with Facebook Live. This is just a Facebook group for practicing. I've done online courses myself, which is why I turned around and created one. They're incredibly powerful because you can literally find people from around the world who are all at the same level and are all trying to learn. And so easy as pie, like create a Facebook group, say, hey, this is for nonprofits who want to get more comfortable with Facebook Live. Let's go through here, and then create a schedule of, we're going to go live at this time. Please offer any and all feedback.
That's a great idea.
Don't go live on your organization's site first.
No, I think it is exactly about practice, and it's about workflow. So yeah. I have a workflow for every Facebook Live that I do. I have bullet points. I used to write out the entire script and literally read the script. Now I really just kind of go with the flow. My other tip is, don't say you're nervous, and don't say it's your first Facebook Live, and don't say you hate it, and don't say you're on video. That's what makes it cringy. And that's what makes people immediately uncomfortable. So if there's a tech fail, if there's construction in your house, if your kids are running, you just got to go with it and laugh it off. Your audience is going to feed off your energy. And if you're positive and calm and just going with the flow, and, and that's the power of live video also, is that people watch it because they want to be in the moment, and they don't, you don't really know what happens. Absolutely. So my first thing is, start off immediately. Don't say, this is Julia, it's my first Facebook Live. I'm so nervous. I don't know what I'm talking about. Is anyone watching? Oh my gosh, what's happening? Because that immediately puts people off guard. I've seen Facebook Lives like that. I'm like, oh yeah, my gosh,
that was mine.
You literally have to pretend you know what you're doing. Just pretend you know what you're doing.
Right.
Do it, and then look at it later and watch and edit and understand that nothing is going to be perfect. Tech fails will happen. Things will happen.
And all that makes you endearing, right?
Like, I know, that's what I think.
That's what's going to connect you ultimately, right? Again, it goes back to the empathy and the storytelling, and people need to see the humans behind an organization's name and a brand recognition. Like, they need to know who you are. You're out there trying to move mountains, like show people your imperfections, and because then you're more human, and then you're more relatable.
Absolutely. Okay. So we'll just take one more question. Yep. So we're at the hour point, but Mike, this is a great question to end on. Are you working with organizations to help clients create their own personal visual and video stories?
I am. I love working one-on-one with organizations, and it can be anything from, how do we define our story that we want to put out there on our About Us page, or it's actually, what does our social feed look like, or we want to create a video, using Zoom interviews. That's what I love, getting it in there with organizations. I love understanding the passion behind the mission and the nuances of what makes your organization stand out and different from everybody else in that particular, arena. So yes, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to me, Mary Knox at maryknoxmiller.com. And I would love to start a conversation.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mary Knox. So she's maryknoxmiller.com. All of the links are in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. And of course, I'll put this on my blog. I'll put this on YouTube. You can just ask us questions anytime. We'll be monitoring the chat. But I do recommend getting the roadmap. Just getting started. Tag me on social media if you want me to check it out. I'm always happy to do that and give feedback as well. So thank you so much, Mary Knox. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Stay safe, wear a mask, social distance, and enjoy the snow if you're in Massachusetts. Okay. Bye.